place to start.
Yes. You were entering the valley of the shadow of death.
Ah, yes, indeed. Well, everyone, hello and welcome. Welcome to Lecture 2. Lecture 2 of 3. And anyway, yeah, so my focus is on the last three verses of Psalm 23. And I thought I'd start by turning on my gizmo here and talking about the structure of the psalm a little. I don't know if you did that. Did you look at that? No. Yeah, so Eric covered this first part, and it really is about the Lord's presence and leading, isn't it? Yeah, very, very squarely. And the next section here, verses 4 and 5, are about the Lord's presence and leading in the face of that shadow of death, that the presence of evil in our life, and we fall into the shadow. And then it turns, second part of verse 5, I think, to anointing the head with oil and the cup overflowing, and goodness and mercy following me all the days of my life. And I'll dwell in the house of the Lord, which is, of course, the Lord's end in view, is to bring us into states of heaven. And that's the goodness and the mercy and the cup overflowing, all of that. So a couple of interesting things I learned about this, just studying the psalm for today. Excuse me, let's go back to this one. You see that, for you are with me. Isn't that the heart of it all? You are with me. God's with us. And that falls, this is what I learned, it falls right in the middle of the psalm. Dead smack in the middle. There are actually 26 Hebrew words before those 3 Hebrew words, represented by 5 English ones. And there are 26 Hebrew words that follow that. You can't see my shading very well, but that actually I tried to shade this part green and this part orange. Anyway, that's impressive, isn't it? Right in the middle. You are with me. It's kind of the heart of it. Other interesting things happen here. Do you see the you are with me? That's the first time he refers to the Lord as you. He slips into the first person there. You are with me. Before that, he's talking about the Lord in the third person. He's my shepherd. He makes me lie down. He leads me. And interestingly, it comes back to this third person at the end. I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. At the end of my worship this morning, I referred to Divine Love and Wisdom, where it talked about the fact that angels, see the Lord as a son out there. And when they're thinking about him, that's where he is. But when they're thinking from him, and when they're thinking interiorly, they only think of the Lord as in them, which is cool. So in a way, this sort of gives us the flow of, thinking about the Lord and then thinking from the Lord. He's led us right inside, particularly through this states of temptation. And then coming back, of course, we always come back to the outside. That's where we live, really. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting thing I learned here. So back to our verses 4 through 6. We're starting with 4 here. And my plan is really to go expositionally, to focus in on some words and look at, the writings talk about how the spiritual meaning of the word, the genuine truths are like the face and the hands of the word. We see the Lord's just like we don't look at each other's elbows and, knees or clothing to figure out who they are. We look at their face and we see the expressions and the affection and the light in the eyes and things like that. And the gestures of the hand. That's where the Spirit really shows itself. And that's true of the Word. There's so much that's just clothing, but the face and the hands are where the genuine meaning that relates to the essentials of life, the essentials of salvation. Life and salvation, the writings say, are like the face and hands. The Lord is the Lord. The Lord's my God. Jesus Christ is our Lord. Follow him. Do the work of repentance. These are the genuine truths. And those are what light up the whole word. Well, back to Psalm 23, it's interesting that so much of this is clothed, isn't it? I mean, it's all images about the Lord. Well, most of it. But it's also transparent. That's what's kind of amazing about it. We immediately jump to the spiritual meaning, even though it's all in imagery. There's something very powerful about that, because the genuine meaning comes right down into these sensory ultimates, outmost things, shepherds and hands and water and pastures. Anyway, so as we look at various symbols, they only light up the meaning that we already see pretty evidently about the Lord and his leading. But they do bring us more deeply into it and enable us to reflect. So, moving on here to walking. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So, this psalm is about walking and movement, isn't it? The Lord's leading, and he's leading us ultimately to the house of the Lord, walking through the valley of the shadow. So the question is, what is walking in the Word? What's that a symbol of? Carrie?
Actively following
Yeah.
doing
It's
life.
practically, it's life. It's actually engaging in life, isn't it? Any other insights on that? Sean?
It's about being present with the Lord, like here and now, consciously,
Uh-huh.
and then acting from that.
Yes.
Well, that's an
action.
ideal, certainly, is to know that. Walking is usually associated with our thought life in the writings. It's a symbol of our thought because, last week I preached on Psalm 1. I don't know how many of you tuned into that, but happy is he who doesn't walk in the path of sinners or, walk. Somebody help me here.
Stand or sit.
Walk in the and then stand in the path of sinners and then sit in the seat of the scornful. Well, the walking is our thought life, and we're happy if we don't engage with evil as we're thinking, going on in the life. But we're even more happy if we don't stand in it, because standing is, maybe I'll stay here, or I'm interested in that. So that's our intention.
Yeah.
And, but sitting is our will. I'm going to sit here in the seat of the scornful. Anyway, so walking is the thought life, and it's learning, because as we're going along in life and thinking, we're learning. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Oh, what is that? What are our spiritual valleys? What are our hills? What are our mountains? What are the valleys? Are valleys bad? Are all valleys shadowy?
They're good and bad, depending on the circumstances.
Okay, what are the valleys?
It's where the waters cut through the landscape.
Yeah, interesting that there's
It's
water
where-
in
Where
valleys.
you feel depressed,
Further away from the
doubting,
Doubts.
Hang on, I live in a valley.
Doubts can happen in our valleys, for sure.
Yes, physically.
Particularly when there's
Easier
shadows
physically.
there.
Easier walking. It's easier going downhill into a valley than going up a mountain.
Yeah, in some ways it's...
through hills and mountains.
What's that?
There are routes through mountains.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, in the other world, will you be on a mountain or in a valley or on a hill?
Halfway up a hill.
Well, Swedenborg said that the celestial heavens were on mountains. Interestingly, not mountains of stone, but of soil, because stones are truthy and soil is goody. But anyway, the celestial heavens and the spiritual heavens are on hills, and the natural heavens are in valleys and in oceany, watery areas. Yeah, Carrie.
And I think that sort of, I've always said I don't want to live up in the mountain. I don't want to live there. I like the valleys because they're fertile. It's really great stuff, and Niles, and it's sort of natural that would
Uh-huh.
drawn to that because the wind doesn't
Yeah.
blow at you so
Yeah.
much. You know,
Not-
but it's from a natural world correspondence. So it's
Mhm.
interesting
Yeah.
that it's
Mhm.
not a higher level place
Yeah.
to live because it seems a sensible place to live if you
It does.
and
It
look
does seem
after
like
your
a sensible
animals.
place, for
Also,
sure.
you have water supply. and,
Yeah, well,
you
But
know,
we love mountains, don't we?
Yeah.
The perspective and the
perspective
grandeur.
and
and-
climbing them and looking
Yeah.
at them.
So anyway, symbolically, mountains in the word represent our heavenly states and hills, spiritual states. My eyes look to the mountains from whence come my help. The Lord ultimately is the mountain. And
Is there
yeah,
any significance in the fact that it's difficult to get up hills? Well, certainly it is when you get to my age, but I mean, it seems to me that there's a challenge in both of the second and the third heavens. if you
yeah,
like.
yeah.
Yeah.
It does require effort
Yeah.
of us, doesn't it? Intentionality. Yeah, movement of the body. So, so in general, that's the picture. And heavenly love is love to the Lord, and spiritual love is love for the neighbor. Also, love for the truth, because spiritual kind of people see the Lord in their neighbor. That's sort of where they are, and their minds are open to a deeper understanding than the mere letter, and they get how the neighbor is connected with loving the truth. But anyway, the natural part of us is the loves that are there are the love of self and of the world. How does that relate to the natural heaven? Because there is a natural state. Well, love of self and love of the world need to be subordinated to and serve love for the neighbor and love for the Lord. And so the love for the natural heaven is an obedience, a subservience to the higher loves. I'm willing to live my life very much focused on myself and the world, the people around me, but I'm willing to let them serve love for neighbor and love for God. And those are the spiritual natural and the celestial natural heavens. So anyway, this valley part of us is that, that's where that love of self and the world, predominate. So the only problem is that if we don't subordinate that love of self and love of the world, then those natural states become a problem for us because they don't receive heaven. They start to block heaven out. And so what happens is hell has grown up to infect that natural mind. And that is really the only part of us that struggles with evil. So, what is the valley of the shadow of death? What's the shadow? What shadows?
Absence of light.
Yes.
The absence of light.
Obscurity.
And did you say light?
Obscurity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the sun, as we were talking about this morning, the spiritual sun is the Lord,
Yeah.
and that His light and warmth coming to us. So when do you lack the Lord's light and warmth? What are those states like?
Is it when we're turned away from the sun, from the Lord?
Mm.
Not paying attention, not listening,
Yeah.
not being guided.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the shadow, when you're in the shadow.
Yeah, absolutely.
States of temptation.
Yeah, states of...
When you're in obscurity.
Yeah. And the reason why we are in temptation is a testing of our spiritual love. And when that shadow is on us, we're struggling to, feel the presence of higher love, and higher purpose. And so that love for the higher purpose is tested, is brought in under test. That's the temptation. Yeah. So, again, there's quite a variety, isn't there, of shadow. It can be really intense, or it can be sort of mild. I'm just not feeling a sense of purpose today.
And doubt is surely another shadow.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
you go through all sorts of times in your life.
Yeah, Mark.
I think Fritz was first.
Oh, Fritz, go ahead.
I also associated with like a refuge for evil, maybe a state where we believe that evil is actually permitted, where there is no light coming in to enlighten us as to what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got the fullness of your thought. You can say it again?
Like a state of where we find a refuge for evil that's still in us.
A refuge.
A refuge, okay, maybe. So where the light and the truth is absent,
Uh-huh.
so we can, in our own beliefs, maybe tolerate something what is actually not right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, so there's obscurity when there's that shadow, and we can latch onto other things that aren't good. Yeah. And Mark?
Yeah, I was thinking shadow of death as a three words together.
Mm-hmm.
That shadow is, I mean, by associating it to death, thinking spiritual death, so you're thinking an inflowing of evil. Your black splodges at the bottom of your diagram,
Yeah.
influencing us, or being under the thrall or influence or attack, to Andrew's point,
Yeah.
through temptation from those from that influx, from that
Mhm.
spirit.
Yeah, so the Hebrew word, it's a one word, but it's the word has two roots in it, and the combination is shadow death.
Yeah.
So it's translated often shadow of death. Swedenborg often translates it just shadow, though, when he translates this. There's one hopeful thing about shadows, though. Is a shadow real?
No.
Can you grab a shadow?
You can't touch it.
Yeah.
Parent.
So the Lord's watching out for us, you know. He does cast, the shadow is cast, but it only has reality if we let it.
But
And
then
you,
there's
I think we've been having classes together, and you said, look, that nothing dispels a shadow quicker than a torch beam. You know, at the speed of light,
Mm-hmm.
it can be dispelled if you
Mhm.
shine light into it
Mm-hmm.
or reflect light
Yeah.
onto it.
and then there's the idea of shade. Shade can be very welcome if you're in the desert, for example.
That's true. The Lord is a shade at our right hand. Yeah. The sun shall not
So
smite you by day. nor
that
the
is
moon.
a form of a good form of shadow, I think.
It's true. And we also shelter under the shadow of his wing. Yes, Al.
Shade tends to be lighter than shadow, because shade is comforting in times when it's very, very, very bright, and that makes the shadow less dark. It's kind of this mixture of both.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gentler word, isn't it? Okay. Well, we'll come back to Andrew mentioned states of temptation. We'll come back to that. So even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Fear. How do you experience fear in your life? Do you experience? Some people don't relate to that word, but I think it's pretty universal, the reality of it. What ways are we touched by fear? What are we afraid to lose? Yeah, Karen?
Lots of things. Reputation, fear of loss of reputation, or
Mm-hmm.
anyway, what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one. We're very concerned about how others see us and our ability to be effective, to rest on our reputation.
An element of worry comes in there.
Right.
Mhm.
What about
Thoughts and
health?
outcomes.
We fear,
Bad health.
Bad health.
Or
yeah, that brings a lot of worry and fear, doesn't it?
I think nowadays the word anxiety is used a lot. Anxiety is used a lot.
Uh-huh, yeah. Anxiousness is connected with fear.
Fear of
Thoughts and outcomes. You fear what's not yet happened,
Mm-hmm.
good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's only in your thoughts.
Uh-huh. Yeah, a lot of fear it's really about us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mostly.
Any human need that isn't being met.
Mhm.
Loss of safety or security or finance or health or possible reputation, all of those will induce fear.
Yeah. All the things that we need
Yeah.
that feed us
Even
and we
a
care
fear,
about.
Variety, a fear of being bored or
Mm-hmm.
stuck in one place for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, Andrew.
I was just going to say a lot of them are fear of something that might happen
Yes.
rather than something that has happened.
Mhm.
We fear a lot of things that actually probably will never happen, or
Mhm.
most of them will not happen. You know, most of the things you fear will not happen.
That's true.
What's at the heart of fear?
Loss.
Lack of trust.
Sorry, too many.
Loss.
Loss,
Lack of trust.
lack of trust. Yeah, those are involved.
Anticipation of a change of the status quo.
Let me ask the question again, though. What is at the heart of fear?
Love.
Love, yeah. Love is at the heart of fear. Because it's what we love that we want to see realized, you know, in our life.
Yeah.
And when that love is challenged, you know, we fear when we have lack of trust that our loves can be achieved, what we love. Yeah. So, what brings us into a state of fear? Anything that challenges our love. So, you could say, I think we've been talking about this. When or how does evil bring fear? Okay, no, let me just pause before we go into that. And just say that I think that does what we love matter when we are in a state of fear? I mean, what do we love? I mean, Mark, do you love yourself?
Yes, too much.
You're supposed to love yourself, right? Do you love Carrie?
Yes.
Yeah, you love her.
What am I going to say?
Yeah. I know you love that little pub that you're helping out with, and you probably like beer and
I do.
other things.
Again, too much.
Yeah, I mean, so we love lots of things, right? So when we're in fear, what's the question to ask? Carl, do you have a thought?
But isn't fear a thing that comes before an event? Once you've met that event, you don't fear it because it's happened. You can't fear something that's already happened to you, it's happened.
Well, yeah.
You could fear it's happening again though.
Yeah, but that's
Or you could fear the.
Anticipation.
but you know how to deal with it next time. You've already been there.
No.
Although the repercussions of what you've done often, you know, your reputation, your, you know, all the consequences.
And fears come. I was going to say, if you fear something because you've experienced it, then you don't want to experience it again. So you get this fear of something that was hard,
Yeah.
and that can compound fears over it.
Can I
escape?
avoid
this
that happening
thing? Yeah.
again? Yeah, well, that's true.
We get more fear.
Yeah.
But
But that's learning.
Sarah?
What are you afraid of losing?
Yeah, what are you afraid of losing?
Or what is the love that's being challenged?
What is the love that's being challenged? That's very, very important to ask, because, and that's part of the solution too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if I'm just concerned for my own reputation and I'm not concerned about the truth, you know, or the effect of my actions on others, if that isn't more important, you know, then I'm in trouble. Right? So yeah, what love is being challenged? Yeah, so when or how does evil bring fear? And I'm going to... And when does it not bring fear? Okay? Yeah, that's a good question.
Gaza and Ukraine would bring fear in people, you know, especially the people who are there. So it's outside terrible circumstances.
Yeah, so... Yeah, that's very tricky and complex when we start talking about
Yeah, no, but it just is an example where
Yeah.
people just, no matter what they're like inside, would feel fear.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the world are under that.
Yeah. Warfare is evil.
Yeah. But
It
it
is
can
evil.
bring fear, terrible fear.
I think it's capable of coming at any moment, but it's how mindful you are in that moment and how you respond to it. So if you're on your guard, you can stop it dead in its tracks by focusing on the love.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not, and you, it'll overwhelm. It's overwhelming.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's an excellent point. So, evil brings fear when we let it
Yeah.
bring fear. When we're so attached to the love that's being attacked that we can't get any distance
Yeah.
from it. Whereas if we can transfer our love to a higher level, and say, okay, yes, I feel attacked on this level, but on this level, I recognize that that's...
So you have the emotion, then you rationally cultivate an avoidance of that and raise yourself above it.
Yeah.
But you have to be mindful in that very moment it comes, or else it takes root in your body somewhere, and you start to feel it in your stomach or here, and then it's hard to get rid of it then, because it's like it's overwhelmed you.
And is that transfer to a higher level easy?
No.
Yeah.
It's
Very difficult.
basically, evil, you know the evil's going to affect you, going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Then you fear it.
Uh-huh.
But if it's not going to affect you, you have either a way of resisting, or it's going to bypass you. You don't have to fear it. That's how I say what you said.
So an important point here is that these things, those lower fears don't go away. They're still there. It's just that you're transferring weight to another level and recognizing another level that you care about. And then it's a fight between them, but you can rest in the higher level.
It's like a fear of being separated from God, from the love of God, and separated from others, seemingly others.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when we know we're all one and the same, and that you are the child of God, I'm the child of God, whether you know it or I know it consciously or not, that's how the evil takes its power or brings fear, because there's a feeling of being threatened. But if you know that God is all and God is love, and the love is in me and the love is in you, in everything and everyone, then it's, if we're conscious of that, then it's quite difficult to feel the fear or to feel threatened, because we know no one can actually threaten us or make us feel afraid unless we let them.
Yeah. Mark?
I was just, in the context of what we're reading here in the 23rd Psalm, it's back to Barry's point that Barry doesn't fear that evil because he knows he's got the means to overcome it. He's got the Lord alongside him, and that's partially Sean's point as well, that the confidence allows you to, if you think you've got the tools and the support and the power to deal with it, then that takes away the fear. Easy to say in words, more difficult to do.
Yeah, thank you. Well done. So I want to go back to the dynamics really here. When does evil bring fear, and when does it not bring fear? But the dynamics in our mind are that we have an internal self, that heavenly part of us, that's the celestial and spiritual, and then we have an external self, which is in the natural. And the Lord's always flowing in, through our inner self and offering us tastes of heaven, tastes of trust, tastes of caring for one another, tastes of joy in activity, useful activity. All these positive things are flowing in all the time, and we get these wonderful tastes of them. But what happens when that flow is cut off? When that trust flowing into confidence, the sense of purpose, and the fearlessness, along with the other good things, when those things are blocked off for us, then that external self, that natural mind, becomes dark. It becomes the valley of the shadow of death. And this is what temptation is, by the way. The writings say it's when our internal self is obscured or cut off so that we're in these natural states, and we don't forget those internal states. We say, where are they? Where are they? I used to care about my friends. I used to care about my job. But we can't feel that anymore because the cloud is blocking. And so we come into these tests where our love of spiritual life is challenged. And that's temptation. And so it's dark in there. And the word has a bunch of different images for this external self when it's cut off. Can you think of any in the word? Think of Joseph.
Prison.
Yeah, prison. Yep.
Feeling of isolation.
Yeah, isolation
Cut off.
when you're. Yeah, there. I don't have that one written down, but there are places where people are alone, like Elijah. You know, he says, "They've killed your prophets with the sword, and I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it away." Yes, that's temptation. Where does Elijah go?
Into a cave.
Into a cave. Yep. So caves and pits are all described in the word as their states of temptation because the internal is cut off and we're in the dark and isolation from others. So this is where the fear of evil comes, when that internal is cut off. And so, as we've been saying, if we can reconnect, at least intellectually, with that higher self and know that the Lord is with us there, then there's hope. And that temptation will end, and the light will be restored, and the good feelings will be restored. We can know that. Yeah.
A bit like Daniel in the lion's den. He was confident that the Lord was with him, so he was fine.
Yeah, and he was there all night, right?
Yeah.
In the dark with the lions.
Yeah.
Great one.
What's the process of the cloud and the cut off? Is it just because of our natural selves we just incline and we just can't?
The Lord never leads us.
Help it. We just get this.
The Lord never causes temptation. He never leads us into temptation. But our propriums pull us away. Our sense of self pulls us away. Even the angels get pulled away, not into dark, but into evening. So that they can experience this rejuvenation when the clouds part again and they get a new morning and see that sun brightly again.
That's interesting that you ask the Lord, lead us not into temptation.
Yeah, that
Why
is a hard
that
one.
in the prayer?
Yeah. And the ready said that's an appearance.
Yes. A comma after temptation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone suggested there's a comma after temptation. I don't know if that's true or not.
That
someone suggested there is a comma after the word temptation.
Oh, a comma.
Well,
A comma. Yeah.
Lead us not into temptation, comma. Is that right?
No, lead us, comma, not into temptation. I think that's where it was.
Yeah, just that whole thing.
And lead us not into temptation.
Lead us, comma.
Yeah.
Not into temptation.
Yes, that's a great way to think of that. Yeah. I know.
Lead us, comma. That's right. Sorry.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, for you are with me. I am with you always, even to the end of the age, the Lord said. I'm with you always to the end of the age. The Lord's always with us, and that's really the heart of it all, right? Question is, how is the Lord with us? How is the Lord with us?
In our good actions.
He's with us in our good actions, yeah.
The good actions of others, in the Word.
Through others, ministering to us, the Word, yeah.
Through the remains of good states as infants.
Remnant states that are
never
saved,
disappear.
never disappear, and yeah.
Isn't
Good
there
good
also
answers.
a continuous influx?
Yep, there is a continuous influx, even if we're not aware of it. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have already given me some indicators. Any more thoughts on indicators? I mean, how do you know when the Lord is with you?
Feeling of peace, calmness, and
Yeah.
feeling of safety.
Uh-huh. Yeah, if we can connect those calm states and peaceful states with the Lord. Yeah.
Our conscience, would it also be our conscience?
Yeah, and how do you experience conscience?
internal feeling that something I'm inclined to do is not right, for example, or
Yeah,
it's
that
what's
that
leading me away from that.
that second voice that comes. You know, we have a thought and then a response
Mm.
that sheds light on that. He looks like a slob today. Oh no, but I shouldn't think that. I should look at his spirit. Okay, we got a thought and then a second thought, right? And that's this is our conscience. That's the Lord. And the writings say conscience is the Lord with us. Yeah. Okay, well, moving on here because we have a lot. What means does the Lord use to make us aware of His presence? And you've already given me some good answers to this.
The natural world.
Conscience is a great one. The Word Mark mentioned. What were some of the
Oh,
other?
the natural world.
The natural world.
The natural world, nature is his
A theater.
his-
Representative of the Lord, and if we tune into that theater, yeah.
I think that's mainly that you look at nature and think there's no way this is an accident. This is a statistical accident.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to get doctrinal here. The Lord is with us in the things which He is. So the question is, what is the Lord? How do the writings define the Lord?
Beauty.
Yeah, He is beauty, but that's not.
Love and
There's
wisdom.
some very fundamental, essential things that are the Lord.
Love and wisdom. I
Love
think.
and wisdom?
Wisdom.
Yeah, love and wisdom. Yep. The Lord is love, and He's wisdom. And there's a third one that's sometimes
Yes,
added.
on there. Truth and good.
Truth and good are actually descriptions of love and wisdom.
Yeah.
They're effective. But someone mentioned it. Use.
Use.
Yes.
Used,
Use. Yep. And so, the Lord is with us in the things that are His. And so, you know, that influx of love that's coming through into the internal self, you know, these states that you guys have mentioned, awareness of the beauty of nature, you know, the awareness of that conscience coming in. Conscience which is defined as a new will and a new understanding. In other words, there's actually a willingness in us to hear that truth, recognize the truth. So yeah, that influx of love and wisdom. How's the Lord with us through wisdom?
His word.
Yeah, the Word and all the truth in our thought and our memory. You could call those remnant states too. So yeah, the Lord is with us in His wisdom, and He's with us in constructive activities of all kinds, which are uses. He's present. He is that constructive impulse, you know, and activity in life. Yeah, so this is, you know, a very doctrinal answer, but it's good to think in terms of the big picture here. The Lord is with us in the things that are His. So, who is the Lord? What is He? He's there. Yeah, you are with me, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. What does a physical rod do for a shepherd?
Keeps him steadfast.
It keeps him steadfast, yeah. It gives him support.
Guides the sheep.
And yeah, it guides the sheep. Yeah, it's a tool to extend his reach, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to get closer to that sheep and farther from the trouble that the sheep is in, maybe. Yeah,
I'm
Carrie?
confused by the staff is the crook that
Uh,
they guide, but I assume that is the rod of defensive thing for animals?
That's
Because
where
it's a pairing thing.
that's where I'm going. But
Yeah.
but scholars aren't sure whether, you know, often
Was it two
the
words
word
with
repeats the
same
same
thing?
word, you know. So they're not sure whether this is one thing or
I've
two
never seen a
things.
shepherd with two.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's two uses for the same.
Yeah.
That's how I read
He
it.
could have a little cudgel there.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I'm going to show you a picture in a minute, though, that has two.
Oh, so you're going to show me
Okay.
one?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So anyway, I asked what the rod does, and people were answering what I think the staff does. But what would the rod do? Oh, Carrie.
I'm
mentioned-
thinking if there's wolves and stuff, see, we're not
Yeah.
used to our shepherds dealing with biblical
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm assuming they had to keep lions and
Yeah.
bears and.
And rods sometimes have either a whip on the end or a spike or something like that. So, they can use it to ward off a wolf or something like
But
that.
then there's the significance of the rod during the plagues, for example. When,
Yes.
when the Lord directed Moses
Yeah.
to point his rod,
Yeah.
and that was, the rod was an extension of his hand and his arm.
Hmm. We just read that in our Arcana class.
So that was a very good, a good context
Yeah.
for rod.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so we can all picture what a staff or a rod does for a hiker. It gives that support.
Yeah.
Yeah, and someone has impaired limbs, cane helps them along. So yeah, it's an extension of the arm, right? It augments the arms and the hands. And so what are our spiritual arms and hands? What do you think they symbolize in the word? The arm of Jehovah, the
Strength.
Lord coming into the world.
Power.
Uses, strength, power.
Uses, they're the ultimate parts of us, right? So in a way they could connect to doing and to use. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, power, people mention, that's often a symbol of power. Yeah. So they are the outer things that we have, the tools in our life that bring power to whatever it is that we do. Yeah. The writings sometimes talk about hands being sort of the outermost thing, the arm of something interior, outer truth, inner truth, and shoulders are full power. Yeah.
The hands and arms are also used a lot for communication, especially body language, so it could be seen as it's an extension of communication and leading and guiding.
Yeah, that's true. The arms almost do it all, don't they? There are power, and they're also are tools for communication. Yeah. And the rod and the staff are extensions of that. But one scholar that I looked at said, related the rod and the staff to Egypt. And, he said, this is really a memory. The Israelites were always to remember Egypt. Remember the Lord's redemption from Egypt. The Lord's the one with the power. And Pharaoh is often shown with a crook and a staff, a rod and a staff. See that? Isn't that interesting?
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is worldly power, the evil power that we're trying to escape. Yeah.
Is that like a shepherd's crook and a flail used for flailing a corn? So is this a symbol
maybe.
for farming?
Right.
I don't know.
It looks more like a
Yeah.
sword.
It's kind of interesting because the Egyptians were not shepherds. They were kind of turned off by the Israelites because they were shepherds, and they saw that as a. So I'm not sure, but clearly that's a symbol of, the leader, the shepherd, the guide, and. Thank you, Andrew. I didn't know. I thought that was a rod, but.
It seems to be a bit like.
But you're right.
carrot
It
and
is like a
stick.
flail.
The Pharaoh,
Yes.
the Pharaoh
Funny.
leads by carrot and stick kind of thing.
Carrot and stick. Yeah.
Well, they
Gives them good hiding if they step out of line, and he tries his best to lead them in the right direction.
But there also would have been a lot of flies.
You're not letting that go, are you?
No.
The flies
Not
would be
insects.
the evil around the sheep, and so you
So-
could lead the sheep and get rid of the flies all in one go.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back here to the rod and staff. So the rod and the staff are symbols in the word for the power of truth, and it's the truth that we take up, and acknowledge to be the Lord's, but that gives us that power. So does it do any good for that rod and that staff to be sitting in the corner?
They are a crook and a flail, according to.
Okay, thank you.
And they have no practical purpose.
Good enough.
But then, what comes to mind with the flail is, I might be wrong here, but question. And we know that Egypt was a wonderful area for growing grain.
Yeah, someone else said that over here, yeah.
That's where they have the during the famine.
Yeah.
You know, all the grain, before that, the grain was stored
Yeah.
under Joseph, you know, and so maybe it partly goes back to that, the abundance of Egypt.
Yeah. Well, my time is precious, and let's not beat a dead horse or flail him. Okay, let's move on. So symbolically, the rod and the staff are that truth that we have to take out. But they're no good sitting in the corner, right?
Right.
They have to be picked up by the human, living arm, hand. And so we're told in the Word that the hand signifies spiritual power and the rod natural power. So the two need to be brought together. You know, that spiritual purpose and from love, you know, for doing the right thing is what brings power to those natural things. And the Lord's rod and staff comfort because we can know them and we can take them up and use them. Now, the word comfort, here, do you notice how I italicized and underlined your? This is where he's talking about the Lord and your rod and your staff, because the your is the Lord's power, right? It's the Lord's hand that's grabbing the rod, so that the Lord's presence has to be there in that. Yeah. So here I try to, you know, we talked about whether the rod and the staff are different things or whether the same thing. But I was thinking of the rod as being the power to overcome the enemy. Okay, that's beating the wolf or the lion, you know. And the staff may be, you know, power to rescue good states. You know, grabbing that poor lamb that's caught in the whirlpool or, you know, whatever, pulling him out. But how does the Lord bring his power to bear for us? Especially when there those dark valleys. You know, what do you find is helpful to you? How do you access that power?
Reading the Word.
Reading the Word. And does that do it for you?
Well, yes and no. Reading is a good thing, but then you have to try to change your behavior or your attitudes. So that's where the action comes in, inspired by the reading.
Is reading the Word, do you get answers when you read the Word, or is it more a symbol for that effort to turn to the Lord?
I'd say probably more the latter. I mean, it gives you comfort, often it gives you peace. So it's probably a bit more of a symbol.
Is that what you find? I mean, if you think you're going to get the answer to your problem right now, if you sit down with the Word, that's disappointing, isn't it? Yeah.
My mother always said to me, if you're in a bad mood, the best way out of it is to go and do something for somebody else.
Yes.
So that's bringing in the usefulness. And because that's our purpose in this world, is to help each other, that the Lord is in that, as you said earlier, so that's why we feel good about it.
Yeah.
And it can also help to lift you from a bad state.
Bringing things to prayer, I think, is a very powerful way. And that works within you as well, into that personal relationship.
Yeah.
And answers can come, but it's also comforting.
Yeah, that's the purpose of prayer.
I can remember Olive Sharp, Anita's mum, saying, well, you can just pick up the Word, because after all, wherever it opens is providential, and just start reading, and you'll get something from it if you apply your heart to it, which I thought was rather lovely. Clearly has stuck with me, because that must be 40 years ago.
Yeah, Catherine. Yeah.
I was going to say it has to be prayer rather than just reading on an intellectual level. There has to be a request for help.
Mhm.
And that's something that's reiterated in Chinese medicine when they describe the 7 Po, which are these nasty, horrible things that come and try and
Mm.
ruin your life. And you're encouraged to use mantras, which are a form of prayer,
Mhm.
to protect yourself from them. So in those states when you're being attacked,
Mhm.
you say something repeatedly until it goes away. And
Mhm.
that is another form of prayer really, but in different format.
I think anything that will open the door and let the Lord in.
Mhm.
And it can be different things for different people.
Mhm.
Prayer, reciting a well-known verse, whatever it is that brings that Lord closer to you and allows Him to help you tackle
Yeah.
your problem.
Yeah. So all these prayer, meditation, anything that helps bring the Lord present or help us focus is important. I would like to suggest back to the rod and staff that the truth is very important to all of those different efforts that we make. Because unless we have a vision that the truth gives us that brings hope, that brings us into a new state or offers a new state, then we're sunk. We have to have that vision. Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a combo of telling myself various true things that have helped me in the past that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I need to bring some kindness into this, but I don't feel very kind. So I'm aiming to let the kindness in and go, right, okay, stop thinking about this thing. I need to change the state of mind. I'll go visit. I'll go have a cup of tea with a neighbor or something, because you get a distraction. So the initial thing is I want to change my state. So you can call it an internal prayer or whatever. There's so many thoughts that go through in a fleeting moment. But then you go, right, I need to go and speak to somebody. And that connection with other people, sometimes you find you're in a different state.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're going just to moan and are unwilling to change, but you have to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have sometimes, if I've had a very difficult time perhaps, I used to think about the saying that the Lord says, I'm the light of the world. And I would then focus on any light anywhere and think, there's the Lord, the shining. And that was a very quick one, because you just immediately thought of the Lord as soon as you saw the light. And I remember looking, say, on a lake, the light coming off in all sorts of situations. In a hospital bed, I would look at the light and think of the Lord. And that was a quick fix, shall we say.
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Sarah.
I was thinking of, for me, what helps is flipping something. So if I'm feeling very critical about what someone else is choosing to say or do, if I flip that to, the Lord wants me to help others, how can I help this person with what they're dealing with? Or help, see that they're struggling and flip it to, what's He asking me to do to help that person move forward?
Yeah. Thank you. I want to talk just a little about that comfort. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Comfort seems like a good thing, doesn't it? Rather than a truth thing. Comfort. Comfort.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. And yet, the writings say that comfort is a truth word. And let me just run some stuff by you here. The Lord's Word has the power to bring comfort, because comfort is hope that is brought through the truth. It's an alternate vision of what can be for us, and we need that so desperately. No matter what we do in these different methods of trying to bring the Lord present and using His rod, there has to be a vision of what can be. And so let's look at a few of the passages here. This is Joseph comforting his brothers when they're afraid that he's going to, exact retribution on them for having sold him into slavery. But he speaks comfort to them and speaks upon their heart. Joseph comforted his brother, signifies hope. This is evident from the signification of comforting as being to appease unrest of mind with hope. And spoke upon their heart, signifies trust. This is evident from the signification of speaking upon the heart as being to impart trust, namely that evil should not befall. Thus to speak upon the heart denotes influx into the will and the resulting trust. For comforting said of the understanding, and speaking upon the heart of the will. Therefore Joseph comforting them signifies hope, for comforting is a matter of the understanding by means of truth. Isn't that interesting? Esau, this is sort of a negative example, but Esau comforts himself that when that he'll get back at Jacob for stealing his blessing, right? But it says to appease, that comforting oneself is to appease unrest of mind concerning anyone or anything with hope. So
Can I
anyway,
just interrupt us for a moment.
Oh, sure.
I know that Anne, you've got.
We've got some sheep and a shepherd that want to perform, but they elected to perform only for their mummies and daddies. So could the mummies and daddies come across to the hive whenever you're ready?
okay, I see that my time is up here. So let me just leave you with this idea that there's these beautiful passages in Isaiah that talk about the Lord comforting his people. And they're connected with prophecies of his advent. You're very familiar. Comfort my people, says your God. Cry out to her that her warfare is ended, her iniquity is pardoned. Anyway. So we've hardly scratched the surface here. We didn't talk about preparing a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Just flash before you all that we didn't talk about, but we've had such a good time, haven't we? There's the oil. Anoint my head with oil. Love. These are the Lord bringing.
Store it up. It's lovely to taste it, but I think we need to use it some other time.
Oh, I'd love to do it.
Yes.
There's the head. Oh, you anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. I think this is talking about from top to bottom, from the head to the skirts of the garment, like the dew of Hermon descending on the mountains of Zion, or the precious oil upon the head that went down to Aaron, the skirts of Aaron's garments, inner to outer. Anyway, surely goodness and mercy are going to follow us all the days of our life, and wow, we'll dwell in the Lord's house forever.
We do have, thank you. We do have an hour before church tomorrow, and I'm just thinking it could be something that people might want to do. I don't know. The alternative would be, we're going to have a walk this afternoon. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
But if people wanted to listen to the second half of that ahead of church, that might be something.
Well, I'd be happy to do that.
But that precludes you from
anybody
the walk.
who wants to.
But anybody who wants to.
Yeah, I'll take a poll.
Let's have a think about that.
Yeah, but let me just say how much I enjoyed hearing all your reflections. And that's really the important thing, isn't it? Is for you to hear each other and talk about these important things.
Thank you.